Hello everyone, today we will be discussing Salmonella that I have represented in a form of a snake. So this is a Salmonella snake. Let's go over its features. It has spikes coming out of his head. It's got a straight red tongue, 2 K's written on his body. It is having a lots of fun and has black and green colored body. So what does all these features means is because of the spikes coming out of his head, it is non-capsulated, therefore which means that it cannot wear any cap. Salmonella, like any snake, are motile because they have flagella, except for these 2 species. These do not have flagella, therefore are not motile. So you can remember this by these 2 species have rum at the end of the word. So you can imagine these 2 species drank a lot of rum and they have blacked out, they are asleep and cannot move around, therefore are not motile. So the tongue is similar to the horizontal is like an horizontal straight line which represents the negative sign. So Salmonella is gram-negative. So the snake has 3 antigens, the H, O and the VI antigen. So I'm going to make a Hindi pun, Havi. Hovi is very similar to the Hindi word Havi, which means to overtake. So सांप आप पे हावी हो गया. That means that the snake overcame, which means havi. So there's so when we culture Salmonella, there's often phenol in the media that inhibits flagella. Therefore, we cannot obtain motile species when there's phenol present in the culture. So to prevent that, we use the Craigie tube. So Craigie's tube I have represented in a form of bean. Bean is a musical instrument that snake charmers use to coax the snakes into dancing. So just as a snake dances to bean, Salmonella dances to the Craigie's tube, which means that we can obtain motile bacteria, motile that is dancing bacteria, we can obtain motile bacteria with the Craigie's tube technique. And we get the bacteria that are rich in H antigen. So let's come over here. So as I said earlier, Salmonella, the snake, likes to have a lot of fun. Fun is a correlation to tryptophan. So the Salmonella requires tryptophan for growth. Tryptophan. So an amino acid that Salmonella requires for growth. Salmonella does not like milk. He hates drinking milk. So because of lactose present in it, as it is a non-lactose fermenter in the McConkey agar. So these 2 bold black K's represent the Kaufman-White classification. So Kaufman-White is a scheme that is used to classify Salmonella species based on the O and H antigenic structure. So let's talk about the culture media for the Salmonella. So Salmonella typhi species in the Wilson-Blair culture media creates a jet black with metallic sheen colonies. So this is represented by the black body of the snake. So the culture media names is Wilson-Blair. They produce jet black colonies because of the production of hydrogen sulfide. Whereas the paratyphi on Wilson-Blair create green colonies, that is represented by the green colored tail. As the paratyphi does not produce any hydrogen sulfide like typhi, it does not create black colonies but instead green colonies. A technique is called sewer swab technique is used to trace carriers. So like you can imagine a snake roaming around in the gutter. So a correlation to remember that sewer swab technique is used to culture Salmonella species. So a sewer swab technique, what happens here is that a gauze pad is tied with a string and hanged in sewers or drain, and then after some time we take out the gauze pad and we culture it. And if we find Salmonella in that culture, which it means that someone in that residential area is a carrier. So that is the sewer swab technique. So next thing is that a snake is very wide. Wide here refers to the Widal test that uses the H and O antigen to confirm Salmonella species. That is called a positive test if we see carpet colonies, whereas it is a negative if we see button colonies in the Widal test. So let's come over here. Salmonella is an intestinal parasite. Just as a snake is very long and it can travel easily through the intestine, which is also very serpentine. So Salmonella is an intestinal parasite and causes the enteric fever, also called as typhoid, gastroenteritis and septicemia. So in typhoid, we see stepladder fever with you can see stepladder fever that you can see like on the front of his body. There are like steps here. So a way to correlate with the typhoid fever, that we got stepladder fever, and although they are yellow, you can call them as rose spots, which is another fever for typhoid. So the front body of the Salmonella represents the disease it causes, that is the stepladder fever and rose spots. And it also causes splenomegaly, and one of its complications is intestinal perforage. And a unique thing is that the ulcers or the perforation it causes are parallel to the long axis of the intestine. So this was all about Salmonella, our snake, and I hope it was helpful. Thank you for tuning in.